Hello, everybody, and good morning. This is Bob Rogers in a conversation with Blair Dubois, talking about what is probably sitting at the lowest end of the cargo food chain, which is air cargo straps. We all know that straps are generally treated pretty poorly, and there's a lot of uncertainty about how to use them correctly. And that was certainly the case prior to 2012, when the National Air Cargo accident in Bagram happened, which was found to have been the cause of incorrect restraint of some very heavy pieces of cargo. Since that time, there's been a lot of effort and energy put into trying to improve this situation. And Jordi Care has tried to lead the way in taking some steps and bringing some solutions that may assist with this problem. So what I'd like to do is to introduce Blair Dubois. Blair is Chief Engineer, Cargo and Weight and Balance Engineering at Atlas Air, and Blair has been working on developing some solutions in this area for 3 or 4 years now. So Blair, can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Yeah, the Strap app is something I've been developing in my spare time, so it has been a work in progress over the last few years. But it needs to address a couple problems that we have with strapping. And it's a very complex strapping cargo to either a pallet or to the aircraft is a very complex process. It takes a lot of training. There's lots of calculations, a lot of measurement, sines and cosines that people have to be aware of, three-dimensional angles that have to be taken into account. So it's very difficult for people to learn how to do it. So wanted to make an app that makes it easier. So there's really two aspects of the app that are going to be addressed. And one is the design of the strapping plan, because that has difficulties in itself. And then it's also the installation of the plan, because even after you have a 2D diagram showing a strapping plan of an engine, which may have 32 straps strapping it to the aircraft, or even with 12 straps, or 8 straps of restraining a car to a pallet, knowing exactly where to put the straps is very difficult. With a Strap app, it's going to make that easier. And the key thing that the Strap app is bringing in a 3D simulator, a 3D viewer within the app. So it makes it able that the user, when you're designing it, can design the strapping plan with the three-dimensional model of a pallet and the cargo. And then the installer can also use that same plan. And instead of seeing 32 straps in a diagram, they can go strap by strap and just concentrate a 3D model of the cargo and the pallet and the aircraft and see exactly where to place those straps.
Wow. This would certainly improve the situation, because one of the things I kind of observe is there's a view of the more the better. And so you see pieces of cargo with multiple straps going in all sorts of directions, but one wonders if anybody has any idea whether those straps are actually in the right location. So Blair, maybe I think you're using, if I'm not mistaken, some augmented reality to assist in this process. Am I right in that regard? And what can augmented reality bring to this project?
Yeah, what that allows is a verification of your strapping plan. So the Strap app allows you to create the plan in 3 dimensions. So you have a 3-dimensional view of the pallet, the cargo, or the aircraft. What you can do with augmented reality is then you can go on an aircraft and you can overlay that plan on the actual cargo being strapped. Whether it's cargo strapped to a pallet or to the aircraft, you'll be able to overlay that and verify that what you have installed either to the pallet or to the aircraft goes with what you have on the plan. So the augmented reality is going to be a great check on the whole process. Another aspect is what I want to be able to do is if you come up and you already have an installed plan somewhere that already has the straps attached, is eventually I want the app to be able to detect those straps. So as you go with your app and you view the cargo as you go around it, it'll detect those straps in 3-dimensional space and automatically calculate the angles and the restraint possible restraint, and then check that whole plan of whether that existing plan that you come across is acceptable.
Wow. So uh, I take it that what you're managing to do is kind of put to work the emerging technological capability of these mobile phones these days. Would that be right? And if that's the case, what do you think is coming in the next couple of years that will make this even more effective and easy to use? Is this a continuously improving technology?
Yeah, I think the augmented reality is already fairly developed within. I develop on the iOS platform and iPhone with Swift, so the augmented reality is fairly easy to implement. The what I talked about is detecting straps on an existing plan. That uses machine learning that you have to go through a whole lot of pictures of straps and work with it. And so there's a bit more development, and that's more in development is being able to use the machine learning kind of the algorithms there to be able to enhance the ability to detect the straps and do it with a reliability with a decent reliability.
Okay. So we got a combination of quite a few different technologies. So what do you think have been the biggest challenges in apart from finding enough time in the day, what have been the biggest challenges to getting this from being a concept to being something that we can put in people's hands?
I think it's just the last mile is going through and doing the kind of the beta testing is going through all the scenarios that could possibly happen on this and be able to, when you're not a full-time programmer, but is the ability to go through and find those errors before I actually throw the app out and make it available to people.
Okay. And are we somewhere along the last mile, do you think?
Is I think what I talked about with augmented reality and then machine learning. I think that's probably those two functions are probably a year or two away. I would say next year we'd have a workable strap to pallet app, and then I think the next step would be then later in that year is to start coming out with some of the other technologies and also the strap to aircraft, because that uses a lot more data. That is something that's going to take a bit more development on doing the strap to the aircraft.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting. I think we sat down in a canteen in Dubai a few years ago when we first had the idea to do this. We've come a long way since, and it's quite a journey because almost every time we talk, I learn about more functionality and at the same time more technology opportunities. In the end, when we do get to a finished product, it's going to be pretty exciting. Would that be your view?
Yeah, I think it is, and there's even more things we can do. Is it's adding the capability to automatically create strapping plans, because we have a defined number of tie down points on a pallet or even the aircraft. I talked about earlier strapping an engine, about 32 straps for a Gen X2 engine that's typically used on a 478 or a 787. I'm actually working, to be able to figure out how to actually automatically create the whole plan. Because when I go through a strapping plan, I go through straps on picking my points and this and that. Being able to take that type of kind of thinking and then putting it in to automatically make a strapping plan. I think that would be, 2 to 3 years down the line, but that would be even another end goal that we can go with this.
Actually, that's interesting when you raise that, because sort of generic special cargo, like a particular engine, presumably the strapping plan is also pretty generic. Would that be right? That if you take a particular engine, there would be almost a standard strapping plan, or am I going up the wrong path here?
No, unfortunately, you can have multiple stands for the same engine.
Oh.
And, yeah, in the last few years, we've carried over 100 different type of engine stands, and so each engine stand essentially has a unique strapping plan, and that can actually vary depending on where you strap it on the aircraft as well. So, with the strap app, if you know the positions that the the points you can tie down on the engine stand, it makes it a lot easier. GE is putting that information out there for a few of their stands, where they've actually defined, okay, these are the actual coordinates of the points where you can tie down on our stand. That makes it a lot easier. So that's why, I'd say it's going to be 2 to 3 years before we can go and actually put some of that into place, because we need to get those dimensions. And typically customers show up with an engine stand, but they have no idea where the tie down points on their stand is. So, we need to have someone go through the first time and measure those stands. Whether the app can make that easier at this point, I don't know. But that's something I think next year I'm going to start looking at, is how do we get the points, the stands defined? Because probably the stand manufacturers don't want to spend the money to do it. And if you have to do it right before you're going to strap the stand to the aircraft, that takes up a whole lot of time. So, there's some stumbling blocks along the way where we need to get that data to make it easier, because the stand, there's so many different types of stands, and you have to know exactly where you're going to tie down on those stands.
Wow. Wow. So a lot of challenges still remain. Yeah. Okay. So just to sort of wrap this up, what optimistic good news would you be prepared to convey to the industry on this subject? Is there anything you could leave them with?
Well, I hope to see some people maybe in at some of the conferences coming up, either later this fall or early next year, to be able to show some people, even if it's not completed. I can at least do some demonstrations and show them where I'm at, and also get some feedback and input. And also, I'd like to see if anyone, I talked about one of the difficulties is kind of the beta testing, and see if I can sign up some people that are actually going out and doing strapping and could take the app out. Because I can set up accounts where a person can be a tester and do that. So I need to get out and find some people. And if anyone out there, is interested in doing that and has an iPhone, I could sign them up and have them as a tester for the app. So any help along that line would be appreciated by people.
Well, I'm glad you've made that point, Blair, because that's something that URD Care can be a kind of facilitator in that regard, and we will certainly take this message out to our membership across the industry and see if we can find some people who will take this on board. That would be if we can help the process go along, all well and good. No, that's fantastic. Okay, well, again, thank you very, very much, Blair. This is an interesting project. As I said at the beginning, cargo tie-down straps sit very close to the bottom of the air cargo food chain. All too often, you see them sitting in big piles in the cargo sheds, and you just wonder how well they're being used. And I think anything we can do to improve the use of these straps and make cargo safer is got to be good. So again, thank you very, very much, Blair.
Yep. Thanks, Bob, for having me.